Good morning! It's a beautiful Saturday morning here in GMT plus 8, a day on which I do not have work, which is fantastic because I just get to chill at home, look at some charts, read a book, think about life, take it easy, enjoy my cats or whatever. And I do like my work. It's fun. It's rewarding most of the time. But still, it's not as good as just being able to chill at home. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this notion. So anyway, I was reading Life 3.0, which is a pretty interesting book on AI. I just started reading. And there's like an excerpt from it where it kind of talks about waves, and although it's not really what the book's about at all, it did get me thinking about what I've learned about waves in the past regarding markets. And I figured, hey, this is a pretty important concept, so why not talk about it? And, well, maybe that idea will be helpful to some of you here on YouTube. So I wrote something because I wanted to gather my thoughts, and then I kind of realized that probably what I wrote is a lot more eloquently put than what I would just like yatter on about if I just started recording directly on a chart. So I figured, hey, what the hell? I'll just read what I wrote to you guys, and then we can perhaps look at some examples. So here we go. Hey, cat. Yep, this is a microphone. Please don't push it around. Thank you. Okay, so waves, right? Waves happen in everything, including sound. And sound is a really good way to think about them because it's so easy for us to understand how sound works. So sound doesn't travel through a vacuum, such as space, because a substrate is required to allow it to travel. Sound travels through a process of action-reaction spawned when the sound is initially produced, the action, and continues to travel as that action vibrates through molecules in a substrate, such as the air, which is the reaction. If we think about a sound wave traveling through the air in an apartment, we can quite effectively map its path, as it is relatively easy to perceive and understand the environment that sound must be affected by. Cement, glass, or whatever. On the other hand, that sound wave itself cannot perceive the environment in which it travels and remains fully unaware. Okay? So the sound has no idea what's going on around it, but the environment around it largely dictates what it does. And a traded market is kind of like a substrate. It's this thing with which the sound, with which the wave can, move through. It can't move through nothing. There needs to be something there for it to move through. And volume in the market, I guess you could kind of think of as the molecules that make up air, for example. And the fundamental environment, like what the psychology in the traders that are active, you could consider to be the physical environment of the apartment, right? Like the outside influencing forces. Now, the difference is that while we can easily recognize the physical structures of the apartment, the structures that make up the markets are infinitely more complex and ever-changing. So just because there was a wall there before does not mean there will be a wall there again in the future. This is far less common when you look at the physical structures of somebody's house. Like, hopefully, if they have a wall in their house, it's still there tomorrow, right? Anyway, this adds considerable difficulty to mapping price, but it's still a really helpful way to think about reading price. So if we return to our sound wave analogy, if you imagine for a moment that your world is the sound wave and you are not able to perceive the substrate or the environment within which you exist, you will be aware of your breadth as you approach your extremes, right? So as you swing up and down on our chart, or left and right, or however you want to measure the wave, but you will be unable to perceive the fast approaching wall ahead. Like, let's say you're on a trajectory towards the wall. The sound wave itself has no concept that that wall is coming. When you hit the wall, your wave must necessarily be altered. And as you react to the action of running into this wall structure, you will find that you have changed. Your swing pattern has changed, and you know this to be true when you exceed a previously defined extreme. Okay? So you're waving up and down, up and down, up and down, and then suddenly something happens, and all of a sudden, your pattern of going up and down is broken, and you're doing something else. When that happens, you know that something has changed, okay? Before that, like you might not even be aware that you've hit a wall, right? But when your wave gets distorted or stretched, then you know something's changed. Your swing pattern has changed, and you know this to be true when you exceed a previously defined extreme. If not for the observance that your swing extremes have been broken, you might be entirely unaware that you ever reacted to an environmental structure at all. Okay? I'm just gonna say that twice pretty much. This same evidence can be observed on a chart, and we can describe the structures that make up the environment of the market without ever needing to understand them more fully. Although more knowledge is never a bad thing, right? Like, there's plenty of people which would maybe argue that fundamental analysis of a market is essential. My argument is that we largely get the bulk of their data eventually in price just by looking at the bars, but still, like, yeah, of course, the more you understand, the better. But we don't actually need to know that fundamental stuff, right? We just need to know where it's had an effect. So this idea is perhaps the most important concept upon which we can start developing our capacity to read the language of price. There's a tremendous amount that we can learn by looking at price, and we can really begin to understand what it's telling us, okay? Not simply just drawing in a line and being like, there's a line here, you know, like understanding it far more deeply than just the line. But like, what this line is actually telling us is that there's a structure here, right? Anyway, we'll maybe get into that in a bit. First of all, let's look for some, we'll just start off here on ETH BTC. And we can kind of see that, okay, we made this all-time high, right? Up here. There it is. Let's pick a nice pink color. And, you know, so we made this high, and we came down, we made this low. Now we came up, and this is as high as we got. And then we kind of came down again. I'm just going to absorb that and say we made this low. And then we came up again. And then we came down here. We barely broke these lows, okay? So we've got this pattern of lower lows, lower highs. And you know what? Let's just include this anyway, just because it's another example. Is it selected? Nope. Here we go. Okay, so we came down, we made that low. We came up, made this high, and then we came down, made a new low. So if this is like our walls, yeah, let's just like this, a big black wall. Okay, so we got this big, massive structure up here, okay, where like price was swinging, its wave was on a trajectory very fast. It hit this wall and got completely repelled. Like the sound wave hit the wall like face on, it bounced straight back off it. So now we've hit this wall. Now we're kind of vibrating through time and space like this. And, you know, this is our flow. You know, this is how we're moving. And then just as sound does, it kind of dissipates over time. The liquidity, the participants in a lot of crypto markets are not quite as well, there's just not as many of them. There's just not as much volume as like a forex market, right? So I don't know, the way I see it is it sound cannot travel for so long in, you know, like well, let's pretend you had a gradual process to a vacuum, right? Like the sound would kind of start to fade out as as there were less molecules in the air. So we kind of see that happening here, right? And then we just kind of get stuck in this range of indecision where we're getting no information, right? We got like no information in here. This is not structure. This is just a box of no information. But what we can say is that there is a structure here holding up price. Okay, so we were vibrating and now we're just kind of doing nothing. We're not really on any trajectory. We've kind of vaguely described a bit of a structure here, but it's not really defining the structure. It's just, we've just kind of faded out. Like we haven't really bounced off this or anything like there. It's just, well, we've just kind of faded out, you know? So there might be structure here. There might not be. It's not great. This structure is clear, right? Because we came out, we had clear reaction off it. This structure is like, I think we've just kind of faded out a bit, you know, or people don't really know what's going on, what's going to happen with ETH, you know. We've had this period of a couple of months of just, you know, what the hell. Anyway, finally, this kind of weak structure broke, and we started kind of going down, and so this was kind of holding until we got to here. So then maybe we could say there's something changed here, right? We got a new piece of information suddenly with this bar. Suddenly, something's changed. So if there was a structure propping this up, that structure is now gone. And so in effect, we could kind of say we got some new action here, right? So we kind of faded out. So now I might be looking for like some new flow. So maybe it starts here. So then we swing down, we swing up, we swing down, we swing up. We don't manage to break that, so we're still in the same wave, you know. So like we're going in this direction, yeah. We're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, all the way down to here. Okay, so something changed here where like these guys just like weren't even propping up the market anymore, and the wave, the path of price was able to kind of just, you know, vibrate its way down to here. And then we came up. Hey, come back. Then we came up here. Okay, so we kind of challenged these guys. And if we were continuing in the same path, in the same wave, we should be making a new low. But we didn't. As of today and yesterday, we didn't. We came down. We failed to make a new low, and then the wave bent. Okay, so the wave is going this way. Yeah, you see that? You can, in fact, you can just draw a line in, you know, like it's almost a multi-pivot line coming down here. It's kind of just like a nice median line. But something, you know, like there's something here. Something changed. Give me this. Something changed in here. Something changed. And that describes a structure here of some kind. I mean, this is kind of where they failed, so it's kind of all in here, right? There's a big structure here, and price is changing off it, okay? So we were swinging back and forth, and now the sound wave has hit a surface, and it's deflected off it. And we know this to be true when we break this guy, yeah? When we break this high, okay, so previously we were swinging back and forth like this. When we break this pattern, we know that it's changed, okay? So we do not yet know where we're going. We do not yet know, you know, we don't know future structures. Well, we have an idea, right? Like this is a pretty massive structure, okay? I don't think we're going to get there tomorrow. We might never get there. But you know, I've got it marked in, right? Because this is a clear structure, you know? There's something in the way up here based on previous data. we know that that's there. We don't know it's there in the future, but we wanna think about it going forward, right? In the same way, we can also think about this level. Now, I don't think it's much of a structure, but it could be a multi-pivot kind of level, right? We came down, we dwindled along it for a while, we zoomed through it, we tried to come back up and failed a bit, but now we're coming back up, and you know, I'm very interested to see if we run into some kind of resistance up here. So something's changed here. We've deflected off this, we're going somewhere else, but we have no idea. Well, we don't know. We have an idea, but we don't know where the next structure is going to be. Like, you know, we're building a room here for the sound to bounce around, right? So, you know, it's something like this, right? This is the shape of our room that we're kind of describing. And, you know, sound can't really make much of an impact through these walls. It can just like rebound and bounce off them, right? So this is the kind of shape we're drawing. We don't really know what's in here at this point in time, but we can maybe suspect that there might be something here, you know, because this was a level before. Often you find this kind of switchback. You see it all the time, you know, like you can find a level, like there's another one, right? They're just multi-pivot levels. Yeah. See, it was resistance became support, became kind of support again, became resistance. We poked through a bit, resistance. Yeah, you see how this kind of happens. So we've got a bit of an idea that we might run into some resistance here. You know, it could happen. We could also just go straight through it. It just might not even be there anymore. But it's worth thinking about. So, I mean, I don't want to get into actually building a trade. I just wanted to make a video really beginning to maybe offer this point of view of thinking of how to think about these waves and understanding that when you get this, like these breaks like this is telling you something changed down here. And this is describing a structure. So later on, when you start thinking about where do I want to hide my stop, you know, what like I know there's a wall here, right? There's a wall there. So I want to hide my stop behind it. Okay. Like if I'm buying in here, my stop's here, like what am I leaning against? There's nothing there. There's nothing here to lean against, right? But if I can put my stop down here somewhere, yeah, then I've got evidence that there is a structure here. And if I'm lucky enough for price to come down and give me an entry, that against that structure, then I'm very happy to take a position. I mean, I also like to see like 3-to-1 or something. So like, let's say maybe I want price to come all the way down here. I can hide my stop behind these guys. It's kind of hard to do this. There we go. You know, I'm hiding behind these guys where the buyers started to change the flow. And maybe my target is multi-pivot line, yeah, right? There, I've got 3.24 risk-reward ratio. That means I can be wrong most of the time, right? But I can kind of do this and I can kind of say, right, okay, well, this is my first point of concern, so I'm just going to take my profits up here, right? Like maybe we just go through it, right? But this is my first serious concern is this level, right? But with this bar, we've now broken this. If price were to come back, I can start kind of building a trade by using these structures. So, well, that's that really. I don't know what you think about this idea of understanding the structure around price, but for me, it is a core concept. It's just so important, you know, like you can just draw in the lines, and you can just look at the bars, but you're missing so much of the important information. Like you need to look at you also need to look at the white space around price as well. Like just consider it all and think about what it means. Like the fact that you can draw a line in here or there, pick these two pivots, you know, there's so much more to be understood about why that line is there. It's not just a line, you know, what does that line describe? That line is there to tell you some information about the environment of price. So anyway, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you like the video, give it a like. And I guess I'll probably make more. So why not subscribe? All right, guys, have a great weekend.